Hello, I'm the Irish guy. Alright, just as I'm recovering from Troy Parrott fever, today I'm going to take a look at every Premier League club and look at where your most expensive signing is who no longer plays for your club. These are the players who cost your club the most amount of money, but who no longer play for you. I'm just gonna grade how well they're doing. I can't wait to get to the Newcastle section. So what if I'm a bitter old mum? They don't call me Susan for nothing. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Nicolas Pepe, Villarreal, 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, we all know that Arsenal's club record signing is Declan Rice. Someone who still to this day, I genuinely believe he belongs in a horror film. Because whenever I see his smile, I fully feel like shoving a spoon in my eye. But look, the most expensive Gunners purchase, who is no longer at the club, step forward and Nicolas Pepe, who is still the second most expensive signing in the history of Arsenal Football Club. A frankly stupid £72 million splurged on him to bring him from Lille in 2019. Look, I'm not saying that the Unai Emery alternative option of Wilfried Zaha would have been any better, considering he's now a washed-up MLS turkey, now having meltdowns in supermarkets about Mateta's opinions, but Pepe was truly garbage in North London, and now he's still only 30, which is mad. Doesn't it feel like he should be 37 at least? But yeah, he's just turned 30 and he's doing okay, starting most matches on the right wing for Villarreal team, third in La Liga. He also hasn't missed a single minute in the Champions League so far. Okay, sure, he just lost the Champions League match in Cyprus, which is more embarrassing than being caught kissing teddy bears, but still, he's on a very decent team playing every week. I thought for sure he'd be some Turkish league sweat patch by now, but no, this is actually a surprising career redemption, considering Zaha is in America at a similar age. Pepe's doing alright. Aston Villa, Moussa Diaby, Al Ittihad, 5 out of 10. Yeah, the most expensive Aston Villa buy who's no longer there now is the £55 million paid to Bayer Leverkusen for winger Moussa Diaby. This man truly is the king of terrible career decisions, like Francis Ngannou fumbling the Netflix bag, because Diaby seems to leave football clubs at the absolute worst time. He quit Leverkusen the summer before they became the Bundesliga invincibles, and he dipped out of Villa the summer before they reached the Champions League quarter-final. He also left PSG the summer before they reached the Champions League final in 2020. This is definitely the type of unlucky chap who leaves his mate's birthday party the minute before Beyonce walks through the door. His timing is so horrific. He's definitely someone who goes to the bathroom before the Darth Vader reveal. But look, he is currently earning a fat bag in the Saudi Pro League, £250,000 a week with Al Ittihad, which is cool and all, and he's probably got golden toilets in each room of his house, but he's also single-handedly ruined a potential international career with France to chase money. Not great, Musa, and so for that alone, I'm giving you a 5 out of 10. Bournemouth, Ilya Zabarny, PSG, 8.5 out of 10. This is pretty perfect so far. Ilya Zabarny is living the dream. A £30 million signing for Bournemouth in 2022, and now he is a young centre-back playing every week for the reigning European champions. A PSG rockstar centre-back who, yeah, I know is already being sent off, but it was in a 7-2 Champions League win in Germany. His red card mattered about as much as a monkey's biscuit preference. I mean, do you care if the chimp at the zoo likes custard creams or not? No, and so getting sent off on a night where your team still scored 7 away from home, I seriously doubt that Zabarny was having boots flung at its head in the changing room after the match. Seriously, Zabarny is having a great time in France. Brentford, Mark Flecken, Leverkusen, 8 out of 10. It is mad. The top 3 most expensive acquisitions in Brentford history are all still at the club. Dutch goalie Mark Flecken is nowhere near being the club's most expensive player of all time. He only cost £11 million when they took him from Freiburg in 2022. But, hey, everyone else is still a B. So yeah, Flecken is now the Leverkusen number 1. And well, you would assume that that club is in crisis territory, right? After Xabi Alonso left, after all their invincible superstars were sold, Ten Hag was sacked after just 2 matches, you'd be forgiven for thinking this recent Bundesliga champion was now in a relegation dumpster battle. Well, okay, don't get me wrong. Flecken did still have to pick the ball out of his own net 7 times against PSG. And yes, for sure, that will be more humiliating than being beaten up by a pregnant penguin at a picnic. But otherwise, the new boss Kasper Heumland has steadied the ship, and they're 5th in the Bundesliga, just 2 points off 2nd. I think Flecken's doing pretty well. Brighton, João Pedro, Chelsea, 7 out of 10. Yep. The most expensive Brighton buy that is no longer there is the £30 million shoved in Watford's face for Brazilian striker João Pedro in 2023. Yeah, he was then sold to Chelsea for almost double that, and he's done okay. I mean, let's be real, when he cut short his summer holidays to extend his season by scoring in the Club World Cup semi-final twice against Fluminense, 2 absolute bangers, before going on to become a world champion, I really thought he'd be a breakout sensation this season. Nah, I mean, He's been okay. 4 goals this season for Chelsea in 14 matches. He went on a 2-month goal drought, and he's lucky that there's no real competition. I mean, if they hadn't given Nicholas Jackson to Bayern Munich, then I have no doubt in my brain that Pedro would have been dropped. He's been okay. Burnley wowed Weghorst Ajax 6.5 out of 10. Look, wowed Weghorst is only the 5th most expensive signing in Burnley's history, which they're probably relieved about, because having another disaster flop like him ingrained in their history books forever, oh no. It would be like framing a photo of you getting slapped up by a duck. It would be like paying someone to put a mural on the side of your house of you struggling to poo in the sink. Weghorst was an embarrassing, colossal, panicky mistake. A big money reaction to Newcastle sneakily stealing Chris Wood in the middle of a relegation battle, which actually is the most conniving, unashamedly mean thing Eddie Howe has ever done. It was all very sinister. It was like tampering with the Burnley chairman's brakes or sneaking dog poison into Sean Dyche's morning pie. Look, Weghorst came in from Wolfsburg. I'm sure he had ginger football hipsters weak at the knees, but he didn't do much. Burnley went down. He was then loaned out to Besiktas and then stupidly Manchester United. He was the Dutch Gallo. He looked more at a place at Old Trafford than Mr. Bean in Game of Thrones, although to be fair, Ed Sheeran was in that show. Anyway, Weghorst is now 33 and leading the line for Ajax, who are a massive club, yes, and he did just score against Chelsea, but lads, they're bottom of the Champions League table. That is pretty grim. Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku, Napoli 9 out of 10. Remember when Chelsea paid £97 million for an aging Romelu Lukaku 4 years ago? That aged tremendously terribly, but hey, I mean, at least that club has spent £100 million plus on 2 different footballers since, so at least they could drag the chunky Belgian off the top spot. Look, Lukaku was an utter waste of time at Chelsea, which is a shame because I think he would have done a solid job at Stamford Bridge if they had chosen to keep him instead of selling him to Everton. Look, he's just had a quality 14-goal season at Napoli as they won the league, and right now he's trying to come back from a nightmare injury, but it doesn't really matter because he's absolutely going to brush past Højlund back into the starting 11 without a fuss, especially considering that Conte loves Lukaku more than his own kids. But yeah, doesn't it feel like Lukaku should be much older than 32? But look, he's a reigning Serie A champion who's probably licking his lips at the chance to feed off De Bruyne assists. All that needs to happen now is for Napoli to buy Salah, and suddenly a collection of these 3 Chelsea misfits. It would probably make the Chelsea coaching team of 2013 feel like choking on cabbage. Crystal Palace, Christian Benteke, DC United 9 out of 10. Isn't it insane how Crystal Palace's record buy is still the £30 million they gave Liverpool for beefcake striker Christian Benteke 9 years ago? I mean, he started really well at Sellers Park, but he quickly morphed into some useless bunny rabbit who'd go on embarrassing, confidence-shacking 50-game goal droughts. But he's now 34, and he's an MLS superstar, smashing in 49 goals in just 100 games for DC United. He's also scooped the Golden Boot and been named to the MLS All-Star 11 2 years in a row. I know it's only America, but so? Both Olivier Giroud and Chicharito, they played at a higher level than Benteke, and they couldn't really hack the MLS. Most of the time looking like disappointing, expensive damn squibs. But Benteke, the Belgian striker, fluffed most of his lines at Sellers Park, often looking like someone who'd eaten so much before the match that he was in danger of puking up bacon by the corner flag. Oh no, he's been surprisingly amazing. Everton Gylfi Sigurdsson, no grade. He cost Everton 50 million. He's now 36 and playing for Vikingur Reykjavik. Lads, there's something about this player's disappearance from English football that I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on, but it seems off. Why did he vanish from the Everton squad without so much of a goodbye? I think I know why, but
you'll never hear me say it.
Lads, this guy spooks me. He gives me the creeps. I mean, this was an article from 2017.
Everton should think twice before signing Gylfi Sigurdsson for 50 mil.
What did he know? What did you know? What aren't you telling us? I'm not giving Gylfi a grade because he's the biggest football mystery in the world, but yes, he's back at Iceland. What went on with him? Fulham, John Surrey, NK Maribor 3 out of 10. Yeah, the third most expensive Fulham player of all time is midfielder John Surrey. When the club paid £30 million to bring this French midfielder in from Nice back in 2018, he quickly wound up being an absolute flop. A complete squash donut as Fulham went down. I mean, at the time, he was seen as a monster coup though, considering he was apparently on the verge of a move to Barcelona. He was being championed by football legends like Xavi. But no, the Fulham relegation fully ate his reputation with a spoon. I mean, come on, how do you go from an almost Barcelona switch to then 2 years at Hull? Anyway, he's now 34 and plays for NK Maribor in Slovenia, where he's been injured for most of the season. Grim next. Leeds, Jorginho Rutter, Brighton 7.5 out of 10. It's no surprise that the huge £35.5 million that Leeds paid Hoffenheim for midfielder Jorginho Rutter back in 2023 is still a club record deal for the club. Of course it is. He's since signed for Brighton for big money, where, to be fair, after being benched at Leeds by Sam Allardyce, place. Oh no, he's done really well on the South Coast. Really well. I mean, he's not going to score much or assist much, and so it's pretty useless for fantasy football, but he is still a big part of Fabian Herzler's Brighton team. He's a solid mid-table Premier League player who is in absolutely no danger of sneaking a France cap anytime soon. He's fine. Liverpool, Darwin Núñez, 5 out of 10. Yeah, we know how exactly the two most expensive players in Liverpool's history are doing right now. Isak and Wirtz have both been about as impressive as a bin bag full of dead spiders. But yeah, the most expensive one who's gone from Anfield is the £60 million Darwin Núñez. I mean, people will tell you that he's a woeful garbage flop at Liverpool, but was he? The 26-year-old Uruguayan never fulfilled the price tag, no, when they signed him from Benfica, but he did squeeze in 40 goals into 3 years at Liverpool. Now, considering he's a 26-year-old big money centre forward still in his prime, then playing in the retirement home of the Saudi Pro League, you would assume that, like João Felix, his numbers are gonna be buffed up. That him competing against these washed-up mercenaries in their 30s and 40s, jumbled in there with a bunch of local nobodies who's got the first touch of melted yogurt pots, you would assume that Núñez would be a 40-goal-a-season striker at the very least now. That him playing in this puny division is like seeing Anthony Joshua getting paid to turn a YouTuber's brain into mulch. I mean, seriously, Jake Paul will be lucky to come out of this Netflix fight with still being able to chew. But Núñez, so far, just 4 goals in 8 games for Al Hilal. Is that it? Mitrovic scored 40 goals for Al Hilal in his debut season. Núñez, so far, teeny bit underwhelming. Man City, Jack Grealish, Everton, 6 out of 10. Yeah, Jack Grealish is still technically a Man City player. But let's be real about it, there is as much chance of him playing for that club again as there is of me being able to sneeze hot chocolate out my nose. This was a stupidly overpriced £100 million chump. I know he technically contributed to the trouble, but no. He was never worth this insane price tag, especially when you see that his replacement on that left wing, Jeremy Doku, is looking like a giant glass of refreshing milk compared to this static, greasy, predictable, pass the ball backwards merchant. Anyway, he's doing okay at Everton, but just okay. He started well with 4 assists in his first 2 toughy starts, but since then, I mean, he's barely missed a minute of football and has 0 assists and just 1 goal in 7 matches, and even that goal was just kicked in by a Palace player off his bum. He's been okay, but a spectacular start would have seen him collect more than 1 goal by now and to have forced his way back into the England squad. But I think Tuchel would now rather stick a cheeseburger in his ear than give Jack a ring. Man United, Paul Pogba, Monaco, 0 out of 10. Paul Pogba is having a nightmare. It feels like this man is stuck in footy prison. Seriously, this £90 million Manchester United buy, somebody who was still the club's record signing 9 years later, he has had a stupendously awful time since quitting Man United. I mean, he left Old Trafford 3.5 years ago, and honestly, it feels like he's been gone 5 or 6 years. He's only played 12 games of football since. An injury destroyed his first season back at Juventus. Then he was banned for 4 years, and that was reduced on appeal. So he gets a gig back in France with Monaco, but that was 5 months ago. He has been a Monaco footballer since June, and hasn't so much as squirmed a minute on the pitch. Apparently he keeps picking up injuries, and his return date keeps getting pushed back and back and back. This feels like McGregor in the UFC. Pogba clearly joined Monaco to play Champions League football to get himself back in the France squad for the World Cup, especially because he knows that Didier Deschamps has a thing for Monaco, having taken them to a Champions League final once. But Pogba is running out of time. He must be panicking, like somebody struggling with the screws in a saw bear trap. He's only 9 games short of 100 caps for France. Oh, lads, if he just falls short in the 90s, if he never makes his Monaco debut and never plays again for France, then this might just be the biggest example of a high-profile footballer who has had the worst luck after the age of 30. If things don't improve, Pogba is going to have to dust off his boots for Soccer Aid instead, or maybe wind up in the jungle. Newcastle, Alexander Isak, Liverpool, 1 out of 10. 1 goal so far. He's already been replaced by Hugo Ekitike up front. Alexander Isak has had a rough, horrible start to life at Liverpool. He's been absolutely dreadful. He's had no presence up front, only scored once against Southampton in the Cup. And guess what, buddy? Southampton are on course to get relegated to League One. Maybe. I mean, they still don't have a manager after trusting that ginger football hipster nugget. Okay, no, okay, all right, fine. I'm milking this too much, I am. And boy, is my face going to look red if Isak comes back from injury, forces Hugo to the bench, and scores 20 goals. That would be rough. That would actually be horrible. I'd think about that. But no, please, Isak, just keep up your injury-plagued uselessness and just keep sitting on the bench. Please. It'll be music to my soul. The longer Isak goes without scoring his first Premier League goal for Liverpool, it's amazing. Nottingham Forest, Anthony Elanga, Newcastle, 3 out of 10. Okay, don't worry. I'm including Anthony Elanga too, okay? Another Swedish misfit flop. And look, I know he's only the 9th most expensive footballer in Nottingham Forest history. After a fairly modest £20 million move from Man United, but everyone else is still at the City ground. Then again, of course they are. Fulham's squad is more bloated than a single mum after eating her body weight in bread. Elanga has since become a £50 million footballer and has started Newcastle life how Mickey Almiron did. He arrived just weeks after Christmas and didn't score until the next Christmas. At the rate Elanga is going, he's been so ineffectively poor, he's been bumped down to third choice right winger. I would not be shocked if he also had to wait a year for his first goal, which is shameful considering he had a gilt-edged one-on-one chance in his debut at Villa Park. But yeah, so far, Elanga has been burned dog food. Sunderland, Didier Ndong, Estegal 2 out of 10. Out of every single club record signing in this list, Didier Ndong is by far the worst one. A £13 million buy from Lorient in 2016, and he was utterly wet sandwich puke. He helped Sunderland get relegated twice in a row, and was eventually sacked after going walkies in League One. Yeah, he's now playing midfield for Estegal at the age of 31, and was just smooshed 7-1 in the Asian Champions League. This Gabonese midfielder has been absolute vanilla vomit ever since joining Sunderland. I mean, don't forget, he's somebody who went on loan to Watford and never made his debut. Oh, just a waste of time. Tottenham, Tanguy Nabali, Nice, 0 out of 10. Remember when Tanguy Nabali cost Spurs a massive club record £60 million back when 60 million was a lot of money? Yeah, he turned out to be a horrible Spurs midfield flop, and now he's still only 28, technically in his prime years. But no, he's now just a mid-table League One player with Nice. And surprise, surprise, he's been dogged by so many injuries that he hasn't even played a single minute for a team rock bottom with Rangers at the foot of the Europa League. Oh, it's been rough. West Ham, Sebastian Haller, Utrecht, 7 out of 10. It seems crazy to think that West Ham once paid a club record £45 million for Ivory Coast striker Sebastian Haller, and then dumped him very quickly after that. Look, he then turned into a goal machine at Ajax for picking apart the Champions League with his teeth, and now he's only 31 and playing up front every week for Utrecht, where, okay, he doesn't score many. In fact, he's only got one this season, but that was still the famous winner for Ajax. And look, he plays every week as a focal centre-forward target man for a team 5th in the Eredivisie. Not bad. Wolves, Mateus Cunha, Man United, 7 out of 10. Okay, Mateus Cunha was an expensive buy for Wolves from Atletico Madrid a few years ago, and now he's since been sold for a huge, massive profit to Man United. And look, the Brazilian in the Man United shirt has been okay. He's been fine. I mean, he did miss that penalty against Grimsby, though, which by far was the most embarrassing night of his life, and he hasn't really scored that many goals or assists since joining, so he hasn't had that incredible an impact, but look, he's been okay. I'll give him a 7. Anyway, that's the interview. Let me know, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. How would you grade these most expensive signings now? Let me know in the comments if you do notification ways. I'll talk to you in a while.